for you, and I gotta apologize. So as you can see, front-wise, there's only a few bends up there, not at the engine bay. That gets to dirt track racing, and he hit a soft spot on the track, and it pulls. When he hit that wall, I was just on the inside of it because I was getting around on him, and he came up and across the front of me. Now, I had this big old stock bumper on the front of it, along with the tube inside of that stock bumper, as you can see here. We take massive blows on the front. And that was always our theory here. Had a look, he just happened to clear it. He cleared it just enough to wipe out the whole front corner of the truck. And that does happen. It's a racing thing. You anticipate it and don't be upset about it. Crashes happen. You're going to be bumping and grinding. And if you're not bumping and grinding, you're not pushing. You don't want to beat your stuff up, but it happens. God, so much traffic out here today. I even live on stupid crap that you've seen some racers lately on YouTube videos do, where they get out of their car and they're going to go fight everybody. It's just part of it. If you're mentally unstable, I say that I'm probably mentally unstable because you crashed. It happens. It's part of the game, and if you're going to push the limits, it's gonna happen. So don't do it. Okay, I mean, don't get upset. I need to build a whole corner or a whole side for this truck. Okay. Still trying to kind of decide the way I want to do it. I don't know if we're really going to get much done in this video. A buddy of mine, because I think he has a fender for this truck, so I don't have to build it from scratch. Very thin steel, very thin steel. So don't be afraid of that. Or something like that, and just reducing weight is not going to make a difference. Okay, I promise you, saving a pound on something like this, there's no difference. We all have a minimum weight we have to meet. And a lot of people that reduce weight, they reduce too much weight, and they have to come back and add it somewhere with, say, like counterweights. And in that sense, you've now reduced the structure of your truck, and not in a good way. And then you're adding lead or whatever other materials. I mean, you're controlling where you want it. But in an instance like the impact that happened, let me pull this foot off quick. Just stay there. That didn't really want to come off there. Apparently it's mangled. I already knew that. But if you look up here, I have actual structure up around my engine. My engine's completely encaged. That includes bars running all the way up to the end, and a crossbar, which is what my hood actually pins into. We also have the actual frame itself. And then again, like I said earlier, if we look over here, you can see there's the stock bumper that's painted orange, and there's actually a second bar running inside of there. I'm designed to take impact. I mean, I know you don't want to think about it like that, but I am. The reason it's important, okay, I raced a truck last year, buddy of mine owned. He had picked the truck up for his daughter, and he needed to get like new seats and harnesses and stuff in it before he wanted to put his daughter into it, so he asked me to run the truck for him just to, do a shakedown and make sure there's no major issues. The truck blew up, but we don't talk about that. The point is there was no structure in the front of it, okay? This meant that if you were to clip a wall or another truck, you might be taking out your engine. Like, in all seriousness, you might be wiping out the engine of the truck. So after it blew up, he offered to sell it to me as a roller. About the same time, this truck was offered to be sold as a roller, and I went with this one for that reason and other reasons. The other reason is when I looked at the structure of the truck, how the truck was built, you can see that this has more NASCAR style bars with the stacked door bars, triple bars here. I don't know the history of this truck. It could have been at one point in time used as an ARCA NASCAR truck. It's just really hard to say because obviously, it gets beat up in racing. That's just kind of how it works. So a lot of these dirt track trucks you're seeing nowadays, I won't say a lot, some of them, they, at some point in time, they were using other forms of racing with other engines, with other setups, and then when we get them, you obviously have to meet your rule books requirements. So like we rerun an inline 4 series, so we are running a Ford 2.3, then we can do some mild things like cams and so on and so forth. So it's hard to say what it was used for, but it has a fully adjustable front suspension, and we have to run leaf springs in the rear, but it's fully adjustable leaf spring suspension. So you kind of have to question what it was used for at whenever point in time that it was ran. So if you're going to go out and buy one of these trucks, guys, don't be afraid to buy a roller if you're good with engines. If you're not good with engines, they get sold all the time for under $3 grand with the engine, seats, everything ready to race. If you're going to get into racing, I personally say, unless you are heavily mechanically inclined, go out and buy yourself a finished truck or something that can at least get you into the sport, okay? Because here's what happens. Say I take this truck and I go out and beat it up for the next 2 years or a year or whatever, and then I decide at some point in time that I want to make it a lot faster. It's easier for me to go buy like a Esslinger engine and throw it straight into the pre-existing truck and then run it. Or, you know, say I'm like, well, my rear end's kind of getting worn out. It's easier for me to rebuild that Ford 8.8 rear end or buy a replacement and mount it to the pre-existing truck and then run it. Now, I say this, I've built a lot of vehicles over the years, guys, a lot of custom vehicles. I love building custom vehicles, but here's the thing. We were talking recently about building a drift truck, okay? I really want a drift truck. I've done cars and Miatas and things like that over the years. I took my drift Miata, and I'm converting that to a Pikes Peak car, full rotary swap in the whole 9 yards. So we were talking about building a drift truck. Now, I have, back in the barn, a Ford Ranger, the newer body than this, that we talked about building into either a stage rally or a drift truck. You have to go through, though, and add the cage, and you have to go through and add all the safety equipment, and you have to strip it down, you have to go through this whole process, okay? It's a lot of steps with wiring and all these other things that, well, it takes time, and it takes money, and you're going to sit on your project until you reach that point, okay? So it's easier and better option, in my opinion, for me, and I'm considering it, guys. Like, not only am I saying it's a better option, I am in the process of hold on, I need a seat. Got military injuries and I'm over here crouching down. We are in the process of looking for another shell rolling chassis that we can ultimately convert into a drift truck, okay? Because it makes more sense that way. So when I say it's the better option to buy a truck that already has work done and it's already competed, I can't stress it enough, because that means it's past spec and it's been tested and beat on. I mean, that's not always a good thing, but in the end, I can pick up a roller, one of these trucks, a roller, for $1,000, $1,500. I think I paid $1,500 for this with a blown up engine in it, which means I had engine, trans, rear end, and all of that for $1,500. And you know, the head was still good and all that. I had a connecting rod that broke in the engine, but I was racing it when it blew up for a buddy. So buy something that's already done, because if I wasn't going to continue to run dirt track trucks, I would essentially move all my electronics, which are a simple, that blue coming off the power in, and underneath there's my MSD box and my starter solenoid and all that's right in here. I would simply move that up to the dash, or move that up in front of me, and add maybe a second seat there if I wanted to make it, you know, a passenger ride, which of course you want to take buddies with you. So I'd move that up, I'd slap another seat in there, and then essentially you would balance out your suspension, because most of these dirt track trucks or asphalt circle track trucks, or anything for circle tracks, usually meant to go in a circle, turn left, okay? Now, if you look up there, that's adjustable suspension. So this one's adjusted down, and I think the other one's adjusted back to, like, way up, so that way the truck has more lean to the left. So essentially, I would just have to redo my front suspension and equalize them out, so that way I had left to right. And then a truck like this already has, like, I don't remember what it's called, steering multiplier or whatever. It's got a gear ratio in there, so that way your one turn isn't one turn down at the steering box. Your one's like 2. It's like 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 ratio. So that way, going around the track, I only have to turn this much, and I'm turned all the way in. Or if I have to counter steer, it's all only back to here. Okay, so things like that are amazing in drift. So essentially what I'm saying is, you buy something like this, as long as you kind of know what you're looking for. You know, I already have a limited slip in the rear, which I prefer to drift on a limited slip because traction is important. I know everybody wants to go welded. Traction's kind of important at certain points in time. But I already have a limited slip in the rear, and it's already caged out. The whole rear bed is caged out. So I essentially could take that skin off, and then if I wanted a little shorter or whatever, adjust it, put the skin back on, or put a new skin on. Or at this point, if I take the skin off, I could put whatever body I want on there. So say you wanted to run a drift Raptor, I don't know, whatever kind of truck looks cool to you. I say Raptor because that's the only thing I can think of that's like factory performance. I'd say you want to run a drift trophy truck. You have that option just by slapping a body on here with your higher arches and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot of talking, wasn't it? Just don't shut up. So, you're going out to buy one of these trucks. You want to get into circle track racing, which is what they're set up for, or you want to make it an off-road truck or a drift truck or whatever. Some things you kind of want to look for, okay? And this is just based off of what I've seen on other trucks compared to this truck, why I chose this truck, so on and so forth. Check your fuel cell mounting, and check your fuel pump. I say that because this came with a mechanical fuel pump. I switched it over to an electric, which was an easy process for this truck because I knew how to do it. So make sure you got what you want, okay? 2, figure out your engine and wiring setup. Obviously, the more simplistic you go, the better. The series we run has to be carb, so our electrical in here is literally single power coming up. We have a main power switch up here. We have a toggle switch up here that turns on or off our coil, which is nice because you can turn it off if you need to do diagnostics. And then we go to essentially a push button to our starter relay, which is a single-in, single-out starter relay, which then runs up to our starter, which is grounded at the casing. We do obviously run redundant grounds, but there's no electronics outside of that. It's just one little strip of electronics that essentially could fit in a fucking, fit in a box this big. Okay, a little box. That's all you need. But if you're going to try to do something stupid like an LS swap, and when I say stupid, I don't mean it's a dumb swap. I mean it's a lot of work, and a lot of people undermine the amount of work that goes into it. An LS swap, you're going to have to change out computer systems and blah, 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 okay? Last thing I'm going to say. I'm just going to get off here. I started this video because I was going to actually reskin the body while we were here, and nobody showed up. So I'm just going to talk, and I'm going to explain some things for if you want to get into racing. The last thing I'm going to say, well, 2 things. Plan to replace your body. Just plan it. That means that, like, for this is a mid-80s Ranger is what the body is based off of. As you're talking to people and you see that they have mid-80s Rangers, bring up, like, hey, you got any junk fenders? I'd be interested in them. Because, well, you can't see it up here because it's off. Let me see if I can just rotate this gently. See back there how much higher my arches are than stock? So you're going to cut that anyways. So if they have rust, which, I mean, all these beds rust, like right here. You know, that original was probably down here. Which really, and to be honest with you, that's an aluminum bedside. But my point remains the same. I run a stock front fender, which is what got mangled. But it's cutting, you know, a strip out of there. And it doesn't have to be perfect because it's for racing. So, if your buddy's got a fender that's completely rusted out and he's going to replace them, grab them fenders. And also kind of pay attention to what will look okay and what will look good on your truck. This is a Ford Ranger, but where are you people coming from? I think school just let out or something down the road. There's more cars than we ever have on this road. So, but, you know, I know that a Ranger will fit this, and I know that the Mazda B2200 is the exact same truck. It's just, you know, labeled as Mazda. And then I've looked at some of the S10s and fenders like that, because when you mount it on the front of this, it doesn't need to match up perfect, and it'll look decent. Okay. Another thing I'll kind of just say is I plan to, and the reason I'm not skinning it right now in this video, I need to weld in a something right here, because there's a gap, because the old series rules said that we had to run the top so many inches stock body. So that's why there's this much that's the original stock door, and then that's skinned from here down with aluminum or whatever else you want to put in there. So you can, that's where you get a lot of your beat and damage. So, you know, it's easier to replace. Matter of fact, here's the one I just pulled off, which is probably going to go back on. I took it off because I wanted to kind of straighten out some of this stuff. You can't see that up in here that got mangled during that crash. But here's my lower end of that door, okay? And that's important because this gets a ton of damage. You can see it's bent, it's danged up. I mean, my numbers are scraped off, like all sorts of stuff, guys. So there's a gap between the front of this door and the bracing right there for the firewall, and it's obviously because the old original fenders used to bolt in up through here. Hope I'm aiming right. Yeah, up through there. Okay, that's where the old fenders used to bolt in. And then down here you can kind of see a fender bracket. Now if I want to replace that with a straight panel, which is what I plan to do, is replace it with a straight panel, I need to build this out in a section right here. Yep, right here. You need to build that out so that way I can then mount that straight panel to it, okay? You need to keep these things in mind when you are planning to build a race truck, is your structure for your body. Because if we look at the back side of this here panel, this is the front side. If you look at the front side of this here panel, see all this structure in here? That means if you're going to be rebuilding a panel or building a panel from scratch, you're either going to have to add that structure or you're going to have to figure out new mounting points. So that's kind of why it's important to plan for that in advance. Now I didn't build this truck from scratch, okay? But if I did, I would build square tubing from the firewall out to that point up there, or wherever I want my fender to line up to. Because then, even if you grab, here's a piece of aluminum composite we picked up from a gas station that was changing their branding. So, but if I wanted to add up there, say, you know, you can put your 90 in here, and then you can lay it right on top of that square stock and bolt it straight down, and then it's removable and not riveted in 75,000 times, and it makes it easier to replace panels, okay, or easier to rebuild panels. And that way, if you have an instance like what I have right now, where we had this whole front right end smashed in, it's a straight piece of square tubing that you know the front and back mount for. It's a lot easier to build. But again, I didn't build the original structure of this truck. We've had it for about a year, and it is something we've talked about doing maybe this winter, is to take off all the skins from the front, the back, the whole thing, and figure out what we want to do to make it more accessible and rebuildable. Because as of right now, there's a lot of rivets in places. Rivets don't make sense. It's like they just kept adding. And I mean, you can absolutely see that up in here where there used to be a mirror, and over there where there's a door handle. It's just like they went crazy with the little pieces of metal and the rivets. I don't like that, so to say, but it's part of it, I guess. Yeah. So yeah. Another thing is be looking for stuff like this. This is, like I said, a gas station down the road went through rebranding. So when they do that, they bring in these pallets of material that if they get used, they get bent, and you can see where the cutouts are. So they bend it and they put it into place. You know, like up around all the fuel pumps and all that kind of stuff. Okay, Now, if the construction company doesn't use this piece, let's just say that, like, they don't need it. The awning that goes around the piece is a little small. They're going to order extra pieces just in case. They throw this right in the dumpster. And I mean, like, right in the dumpster. Like, I showed up and was like, that material got in the dumpster. Can I have it? And they were like, as long as the roll-off's here, come get it and it's yours. This is aluminum composite, which means it's a piece of aluminum on the outside, a piece of plastic down the center, and a piece of aluminum on the inside. It's not the lightest thing in the world, but it's very durable and a little flexible at the same time, and it's not heavy at all, okay? Like, it's not heavy, okay? I mean, it's heavier than a thin piece of aluminum, but it's not heavy. And that goes more for just these pieces. This is the ones that they were putting up now. And like I said, they throw away all the spares. They don't keep them. They toss them out. But that gas station used to be a Sunoco, which means they were throwing away all the old pieces that were hung around the top. Now, it's not a perfect fit, but I have enough of these to do a whole body with, okay? And that's one of the reasons I wanted to take this door off, to see where this would hang, because if I were to mount it a little higher, it lines up with the old body. And again, I have enough to skin the entire truck with this for free, pulled out of a dumpster. It cost me nothing. Aluminum's expensive. Sheets of aluminum are expensive. I had a buddy that reskinned his whole truck last year and then rolled it this year. He's stressing out, guys, because aluminum was expensive when he rebodied his truck, and then when he rolled it this year, he was like, well, I'm not going to reskin it again. Like, so now his body's mangled anyways, and it looks like it did before he reskinned it. So you got to keep that in mind. You want to spend a lot for sheets of aluminum to constantly reskin your truck, or do you want to just find another way? I'll also say consider rattle canning a lot more than you would prefer, because this whole truck was rattle canned, and we are about 3/4 of the way through the season, and as you can see, it is banged up, and you've seen the piece that I took off here and that piece that I took off up there. The other side's even worse. It's banged up, it's dinged up. I race, guys. I door to door, bang, hit, race. It's gonna happen, and I'm gonna scratch stuff up. But twice now in the season, I have taken a literal piece of siding from our house when we changed the siding off, just a sheet of siding, and I held it up there. And this way. Held it up right there, and I went with the orange. And that's it. I mean, I've literally repainted a lot of sections on this truck with a rattle can, and just putting it up there and spraying it. And I've done short videos on that of the day before a race. It's just hold a piece of this material right there and spray the top of a door quick, just to get rid of it and make it look good. You want to look good for your sponsors, guys. That's what it comes down to. Essentially, this is acting as an active billboard, along with you as a racer being the voice for these companies. So you have to go out of your way to make advertisements. You have to go out of your way to look good, even if you're like, it's dirt track racing, I don't care, it can look beat up. And there's a reason all the good looking teams are the ones with the big advertisements that are paying them cash. So don't do that. Don't do that. So I need to build that structure up right here like I was talking about. I really wanted to get this thing skinned right now, but I think I'm going to contact my buddy about possibly picking up that set of fenders he has for these trucks, because I would love to pick up an old set of fenders and just be able to bolt one on rather than build one from scratch. If I do build one from scratch, it's literally going to be this material, and then just up it and bolt it to the edge right here and bolt it to the front and be done with it. I mean, it's not going to look bad, but it is going to change my height down the side of the truck and so on and so forth, because I have no control over this material being longer or shorter, but it was free, and I like free. So that's my plan right now. If you have any questions, do me a favor, leave them in the comments. I don't care if it's about the truck. I don't care if it's about racing. I don't care in general, because I have done a lot of different forms of racing over the years. I don't care if your question's about something random and out of the box and whatever. Okay, shoot your question in the comments below. If you've watched this far, that's a whole video, guys. Hit the like button or something. The big thing that YouTube's pushing for us right now is if they put our video on the screen under recommended for you when you open your app, if you could just click that and let it play for like 30 seconds, YouTube's loving that. They're eating that up. That means that we were entertaining enough from the get-go that you wanted to click our stuff. And that's good for them. I don't know. Help our channel grow. That's the big thing. And we'd very greatly appreciate that. But most importantly, guys, get out there. Have fun. Have fun with racing, okay? Racing has gotten very expensive, very tedious, very knowledge-based, but have fun with it. Because even just last night, I met two young guys who just wanted to learn to build a motorcycle, and they failed, so we picked up the motorcycle off them, but they tried. And I said, I told them, when I get your bike running, you know, I'll send you pictures to videos, and I'll let you know what you missed. Because they tried different things, and they were telling me their different route of trying. So, you know, now it's come to me, and so now we can comb through it and find where the issue was, and let them know, and let them learn, and let them grow, so that way next time he wants to build a bike, he can get it done right, okay? I mean, he can do it right. Don't be sending everything off to the shop. So get out there, have fun, and enjoy racing, okay? Enjoy it. Because, you know, we live this world once, so go out and do what you like. Have fun, and bye.